James Gunn's Superman is only in year 3 of his career, and that changes everything about how Batman's timeline in the DCU has to work. Forget the idea of a grizzled, middle-aged Dark Knight. Gunn himself said Batman won't be middle-aged here. So how do you fit decades of comic book history, 4 Robins, Knightfall, The League of Assassins, and Damian Wayne, into less than a decade of storytelling? Today, we're breaking down how Batman's timeline could unfold in the DCU, phase by phase, and why this setup might actually be the smartest move yet. So let's start with what we know. DC confirmed that Superman takes place in year 3 of Clark Kent's career. That's young. Clark isn't a rookie anymore, but he's still figuring out what kind of hero he wants to be. Now, here's the catch. Gunn has also said Batman and Superman will be portrayed as best friends. If that's the case, it wouldn't make sense to have Batman be 10 to 15 years older. Imagine Superman in his mid-20s teaming up with a 48-year-old veteran Batman. That dynamic works in some Elseworlds stories, like The Dark Knight Returns or even Kingdom Come, but it doesn't scream fresh, shared universe. So what does this mean? It means Batman can't have been fighting crime for decades before Superman showed up. His timeline has to be compressed, and his career has to line up with Clark's growth. Do you think Batman should be close in age to Superman? Or should he have way more experience under his belt? Now, some fans thought Creature Commandos proved Batman had been active for over a decade. Why? Because Dr. Phosphorus says he hasn't been touched in 15 years. People immediately jumped on that, saying, boom, Batman's been around that long too. But James Gunn cleared that up. He said it would be silly to assume Batman met Phosphorus the second after his transformation. On top of that, Phosphorus isn't exactly the most reliable narrator. The guy's insane. His sense of time is completely warped. So that theory? Debunked. It doesn't mean Batman's been out there for 15 years. If anything, it shows us how easy it is to misread the timeline.
Skeleton. It looks like I'm smiling even when I'm not.
You are not smiling?
Oh, I am. But you can't tell that.
This brings us to the Robins, the trickiest part of Batman's lore. Normally, Batman starts with Dick Grayson as Robin, then Jason Todd, then Tim Drake, and eventually Damian Wayne. That's 4 Robins across about 2 decades of comics. But here's where things get interesting. DC Studios is developing a dynamic duo project. It's supposed to focus on Nightwing and Red Hood, and James Gunn has even said he'd like it to be DCU canon. The catch? The synopsis suggests both Dick Grayson and Jason Todd might be Robin at the same time. If true, this is a genius move. Why? Because it condenses Batman's timeline without throwing away key storylines. Instead of stretching Robins across 15 years, you overlap them. Imagine Dick and Jason both training under Batman. Dick leaves earlier to become Nightwing, Jason stays, and, well, we know what happens next. So you think 2 Robins at the same time is a good idea, or do you think that ruins the tradition of passing the torch? Let me know in the comments. Let's break this down into phases. Year 1 to 3. Batman's origin unfolds much like the comics. By year 2, he adopts Dick Grayson after the tragedy at Haley's Circus. But instead of waiting years to introduce Jason, Batman takes him in almost immediately. Maybe Dick is 11, Jason is 10, and by year 3, they're both wearing the Robin suit. But obviously, with Dick being superior and ultimately the better Robin. This sets up a really unique dynamic. Batman and the Robins, not just the Robin. You'd have that brotherly rivalry between Dick and Jason from the start, which makes Jason's eventual death hit even harder. Now fast forward a few years. Dick's around 16, and he leaves Batman to become Nightwing. Jason stays behind, and tragically, in year 6, Jason Todd is killed by the Joker. This would line up with Superman being in year 3. So while Clark is learning to inspire hope, Batman is experiencing one of his darkest tragedies. 2 heroes, same timeline, completely different arcs. It's a brilliant parallel. Which Robin story are you most excited to see in live action? Dick as Nightwing, Jason as Red Hood, Tim as the Detective Robin, or Damian the Assassin?
Bruce. Jason. But you're dead.
With Dick gone and Jason dead, Batman spirals. He becomes more violent, more reckless. Enter Tim Drake, the only Robin who chooses Batman, not the other way around. Tim sees Batman falling apart and insists that he needs a Robin. Now, here's where we can slot in one of the biggest arcs ever, Knightfall. We already know Bane is confirmed for the DCU, so it feels inevitable. Around year 7 or 8, Bane breaks the bat, Azrael takes over, and Bruce has to fight to reclaim his mantle. This gives us a darker, battle-worn Batman by the time Damian Wayne shows up. By the time we reach year 9, Batman has gone through hell. 2 Robins lost, a spine shattered, his mantle stolen. That's when Damian Wayne enters the picture. James Gunn has already confirmed Damian will be introduced in The Brave and the Bold, which is slated for 2028. That would put Superman in year 6, Batman in year 9. Both heroes are still relatively young, still growing, but already carrying legacies. And narratively, it works. Batman having a son at this stage doesn't feel rushed. It feels earned. We've already seen him lose family. Now he gains one. So who plays this version of Batman? Gunn has said he doesn't want a middle-aged actor. That means no 50-year-olds in the cape. Instead, we're probably looking at someone in their late 30s by the time Brave and the Bold films. Some fan-favorite names tossed around include Jake Gyllenhaal, Jensen Ackles, and even Brenton Thwaites, who already played Nightwing on Titans. Nothing official yet, but the idea is clear. They want someone who can last 10 to 15 years in this role. Who's your dream casting for the DCU Batman? Do you want a big name or a total newcomer?
What are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
So here's where we land. Superman in year 6 by 2028. Batman in year 9. 4 Robins introduced across a condensed timeline. Knightfall, Red Hood, and Damian Wayne, all possible within 1 decade. It keeps Batman close in age to Superman. It keeps the friendship believable, and it gives the DCU room to grow for the next 10 to 15 years. Personally, I can't help but think this might be the most balanced Batman timeline we'll ever see in live action. Dark enough to respect the comics, streamlined enough to work in a shared universe. But what do you think? Should Gunn condense Batman's timeline like this, or should we see a slower, decades-long build like in the comics? And most importantly, who is your favorite Robin? As always, thanks for watching, guys. And if you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe for similar breakdowns across all superhero media. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. See you guys later.